Working in villages, we often found, that women, for example, in the evenings go to toilet, and it's also a social time for them. They go chatting. They go. In fact, we had women in our group, and they invited them also to come along and say that it's great fun. We go, and so it's also a time of building a community bond, and which they said that our grandmothers have been doing it, mothers have been doing it, and it is considered something which is considered, totally normal, not, nothing obscene about it, that we all go and talk. So the naturalness about it, I think that I remember that it struck me as a great
That's
thing.
true. But the problem is that this it's not a good time to encourage this, because yes, I understand the social part of it. Even when they went to fetch water from the wells, that was a bonding time. But the problem is that now there are habitations everywhere, right? So if you do it, for sure, it's going to get into the groundwater. It's going to cause pollution. So this we have to move out from this. But yes, the good parts of it, when it was bonding time, those things also need to be talked about.
Absolutely.
Right. And another problem is that a lot of toilets are not being used by villagers because they become stinky. So they go and sometimes the slope is not proper of the toilet pan. So it doesn't it doesn't go properly, it gets stuck there, then there's a bad smell. So they stop using it and they again go to the outdoors, right? So that is why many of the programs have failed. So these things have to be addressed. People are trying to do that. But one thing that they're all doing is they make it seem like open defecation is primitive. What is not understood even by the sanitation professionals is that it was actually a very healthy practice once upon a time, and now it is not good to continue with it. But when it was in existence, it was not a bad practice. That also needs to be communicated.
Yeah, two more small comments. After the Gujarat violence, we were working over there, and the government, they where the houses were burned down, they offered to make them a house with toilet. Now, what we found is that many people did not want a toilet, and the people who are doing that, they said आप उनको समझाइए कि वो जो है टॉयलेट वो करें, मतलब घर के साथ, बिकॉज हम वो दे रहे हैं, पैसा दे रहे हैं बनाने के, बट देयर रिस्पॉन्स वाज हम तो खेतर में ही जाते हैं. तो
No, because they understand the logic of it. They think it's going to help fertilize the fields and it's a good thing, right? So that was the thing. So nobody addressed the problem of making them understand why the times have changed and they should not be doing it.
they asked us to convince them, we
Right.
could not do so. We
Right.
failed.
Right.
And my third comment is also that recent times, since I work in the field of sexual violence, a lot of sexual violence takes place when women go to toilet. That's one phenomena that we have noticed, particularly in semi-urban areas.
Though it's not because of it. I mean, the sexual violence, those
vulnerable.
predators are predators. They are going to,
Absolutely.
even if they'll find some other way of attacking. That is, so it's not that. But yes, you reduce the chances of them getting access to
They're
vulnerable women.
They're vulnerable during that time when they go. So that's why probably they go in groups.
Right.
And that's why also, when they go, they have to take precautions. Because we did find that, at least in Delhi, I can talk about that in a large number of surrounding areas which are semi-urban, or a large number of sexual assaults take place during the time when women go for the walk, for their ablution. So that's something which is also changing their views towards not going out anymore.
So the thing is, if we give them good toilets, which are also sustainable, then it solves many problems in one go.
Sure.
But the thing is that we were not aware that we could develop these kind of toilets which are not polluting. Most people hanker for the flush toilet because that is a status symbol that we are using water, and they're completely not thinking about how harmful it is. Of course, now a lot of people might say that we don't want waterless toilets. We like what we have, and we would rather treat the wastewater. So that paradigm will continue where we already have those kind of centralized treatment systems. That is going to continue.
What you've probably not touched upon is the Indian toilet versus the Western toilet. The way of sitting. I keep hearing every now and then that there are health benefits of actually sitting in the Asian squat, as they call it now.
That is true, but again, with age, when people are young, they're able to use the squat toilets, and it also gives them flexibility of body. It's good for them. But beyond a certain age, they will need a seat. If you remember our grandmothers and grandfathers, after a certain age, they needed those kind of toilets. So the thing is, in Singapore, for instance, I find both toilets. In many of the malls, they have squat toilets as well as flush toilets.
I wanted to ask about the concept of purity in hygiene that you mentioned, and how it has been divorced from the logic of it all. So you were talking about the rural areas and the urban areas in ancient times. So in ancient times in urban areas they had this sense of logic and also purity and hygiene at the same time. And same was with the rural areas. Now that it has been divorced from it, many people don't know the logic behind it. They just do it out of habit, or
Exactly.
like they have. It's been happening for generations, so we are doing it like that, and it's a habit now. We like it better. So how can we bridge that gap and make them understand?
So who should to make who understand, the villagers or the urban people?
Majority of the issue lies in like 3 or 4 tier cities or in the villages. They don't understand. Like for example, you just said, okay, they don't go to the toilets because they find it stinky or whatever.
No, so this is a process going. A lot of NGOs are working in this. They are telling them that if you don't want it to stink, you need to have a properly designed toilet. So the slope has to be right, and then you have to use a little bit of water to wash it off, and then you have to wait until it consolidates. Right? There are pits where it is all collected, and so it has to be explained to them that there will be a little bit of smell, but it will go away, and you can use natural substances to keep it aromatic. You can clean with natural substances, eco-friendly substances. So all those things can be taught, and they are being taught to people. So it's because now there is a disconnection from the ancient Indic knowledge, right? So they have to be taught. But what they are being taught is not really in the Indic way. They're not being taught in the Indic way. So they're being told that yes, we can make these toilets workable, and you do this. And going out is bad. It is very primitive. It's retrograde. What I would like to see is that let them know their history. Let them be told why they were going out in the past and why it's not a good idea now. That part, why it used to be good in the past, is not discussed at all. But yes, they are being told today that they need to use toilets. It's good for them, safe for them. They don't need to go and go get attacked by miscreants outside. So that's happening. And you can see even the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is also emphasizing the need for toilets. Everybody should have a toilet. That's happening.
जिस टॉयलेट को हम लोग यूज कर रहे हैं अभी, इसको उड़ीसा टॉयलेट कहते हैं। इससे पहले भी क्या जो हमारे सिविलाइजेशन में डेवलप कैसे हुआ, और क्या क्या उड़ीसा के अलावा और जगह यूज नहीं करते थे इस ढंग से टॉयलेट? जो इंडियन टॉयलेट है हमारा, जो सीट है हमारी, उसको उड़ीसा टॉयलेट कहते हैं। ये शायद आपको मालूम होगा। तो इसका मतलब ये उड़ीसा में ही डेवलप हुआ या नॉर्थ में कहीं और कुछ दूसरे ढंग का था, क्या था?
Why is it called Orissa toilet? That's something I would like to know. But because it was used in, there were toilet seats in the Sindhu Saraswati civilization. They had, in Dholavira, they have a toilet seat. So that concept was there. There were toilets with seat, holes which were with slightly raised, and they had seats. And also I think in some forts I've seen it. In Mandu also I saw toilets which had seats. Okay, not like the Western toilet, but recently there was a news report which talked about Kumbh Mela, how it caused an epidemic of cholera. There's no such mention at all. People who have looked at Charaka Samhita, it talks about the disease. The disease is there, but it never became took epidemic proportions because people knew that the rivers should not be polluted. So yes, some people would have diarrhea, but it was not like thousands of people like how it happened in London, where they were thinking it's a good idea to put it in the river, right?
So, did we have sewage treatment plants in Harappan and
So
those
it was
times?
not, we haven't done enough excavations, but from what we have seen, it looks like there were settling systems where they would settle and then the supernatant liquid would flow and then the solids would be recovered, the sludge. They are called biosolids today, and then they were used. But yeah, we probably didn't have very advanced systems of treatment. But in the Muslim period, we do see them. I saw it in Mandu Fort. I saw that there was an elaborate system of treatment.
The main problem which we see today in toilet system is the centralized sewage treatment plant, because you have to carry that all the sludge into a centralized sewage treatment plant, and you need some power and all those stuff.
Yeah, that is what I was talking about. The challenge is now that so much has to be transported into a centralized system, and then it has to be treated, and then you separate all the water from the solids, right? So that is the
What I
challenge.
wanted to know is if we had some kind of decentralized system at that time also.
Yes, there was there were like Kalibangan, and there were some Harappan sites where they had decentralized systems, where from the households it would be collected in a jar, the wastewater, and then they would be allowed to settle there, and then so it was not really a very elaborate system, but yes, it was decentralized. That both centralized and decentralized were used in Harappa.
जैसे इन्होंने कहा ना, ये जो हमारा अभी का सिस्टम है, जो भंगी जो ले आते थे वो करते थे, ये सब मुस्लिम पीरियड में शुरू हुआ। हिंदू पीरियड में कहीं इसका
Yes, because when they went and did outdoors, there's no question of manual scavenging. That was a big advantage. Nobody had to remove it. It was going back to the soil. So there was no. But in the cities,
सीवेज ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट का तो कैसे होगा जब उसको जाता ही नहीं था
नहीं, but cities में तो थे ना. हरप्पन सिस्टम में जो सिंधु सरस्वती सिविलाइजेशन के जो cities हैं, उसमें there are drains, right? So those drains are carrying what you can call sewage. So there they would be allowed to settle. And then it will become clean. For the top layer of the water would be somewhat cleaner and it would flow, and that also would not go into rivers. I think most likely it was not flowing into rivers directly. The solids would be removed and reused.